So here we got Earl Gray Anderson, and first of all we'll probably start with introduction about who you are and your hobbies and what you work for, and so people can understand who you are and whether you can be trusted or not on the interview. So, a lot of people out there are skeptical of, especially UFO people that have all these outrageous stories. So I'll leave it to you to explain a wee bit about yourself.
Sure, Paul. I'm skeptical as well. I mean, that's kind of what I do, as in my job for MUFON. I'm chief investigator in Los Angeles, and we do have the largest number of UFO reports, not only in the country of North America, but in the entire world. Now, some of that is probably because we're crazy California here, of course. And yeah, that probably plays into it some, and I get some contactees with some wild stories that sound like comic book stuff, But we also have some major military bases around here. We have Vandenberg, we have Edwards. Over the mountains, we have Area 51.
Yep.
We have the whole coast of California, and there are a lot of sightings there. And while some people may have seen a drone or weather balloon or perhaps a Chinese lantern release, there are some UFOs that we can't explain. And, I'm nearly 60 years old. I turned 60 on May 29th.
Oh, you're a wee bit older than I.
A wee bit.
Yeah, by about 9 years.
60 is the new 100,
Mind you, I found my life growing up were the best years. The 60s and 70s were the best times.
Yeah, well, I was here for the 60s and the 70s, and they were fun,
Yeah, we grew up with the Beatles, so...
The Beatles were amazing, and that's kind of my whole gist as far as music goes. Everything you have to compare with John Lennon. Nothing compares with John Lennon.
I know, just think what he could have done if he lived a bit longer. But you do model making. Do you still do that still before we move on?
I do it when I have time. It's been a while, I'm so busy with my cases, through MUFON. I usually have 30 cases at a time that I'm working on.
Yeah.
I'm a very busy field investigator. I am the chief field investigator for MUFON in California.
Right.
And, Jeff Krause, my boss, he does hand me a lot of the more interesting cases. Sometimes it's nothing more than the moon through clouds. Other times, it's, other times it's very, very interesting.
Yeah, well, you're seeing most of my debunks on stuff, and I'm trying to educate people how to, look at their own footage before submitting it to MUFON, but it's hard to get people, to look at things truthfully and with a out of the mind box, look at from a fresh perspective.
My dad. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I think so.
His brother was Robert Anderson, who was a very famous cardiologist. He was Walt Disney's cardiologist.
Right.
So he and another guy by the name of Dr. K, they invented the first reusable open heart machine.
Right.
And my dad was in pre-med at the time, and my uncle told him, you might as well quit pre-med because we need you to be our ambassador to go to different countries and sell our machine.
Yeah.
It's going to revolutionize heart surgery, which it did. It did.
Yeah.
Franco in Spain, there were all kinds of... we had a huge Europe trip that we did back in 1965 that was all paid for because my dad was showing off this heart-lung machine.
Right.
And it looked like it was going to be the all-in-all for our family, and my mom was going to be cared for the rest of her life, that it would never be an issue how we would pay for anything. We visited Switzerland, we were in Geneva with little, paddle boats and all that stuff. We went to the ruins in Italy, and my dad was constantly giving conferences about the machine. They sold a bunch of them.
Right.
The trouble is, a couple of years later, somebody invented a machine that you could it was made out of plastic. And you could throw the damn thing away. You didn't have to stick it into, you didn't have to sterilize it, you know.
Right.
So my dad kind of went broke. My uncle and Dr. K, well, they were both heart surgeons, so they were okay. But my dad, not so much. He quit medical school, and here we were. And we had a house that we had bought in Thousand Oaks, California.
So how many kids were in the family by then?
It was myself and my sister. It was my mom and my dad. So it was four of us. And my dad wound up becoming a landscape contractor. He was the landscape contractor at Pepperdine University out here in Malibu.
Right.
He did okay with that, you know, but it was not what my mom was expecting.
No.
And while I was growing up during the 70s, it felt like my mom was very dissatisfied with her life.
Yeah.
That she had some idea of what her life was going to be like, and it hadn't gone that way at all.
All right.
Betty Grace Anderson.
And how many kids?
She was originally her name was, when she began her work for Howard Hughes, which I'm guessing you will probably bring up. My mom was Howard Hughes' personal secretary back in the 1950s. Howard Hughes had two secretaries. He married one of them, and my mom married my dad.
Oh, that's good.
Yes,
it's good he's got two secretaries. He must have lots of money.
So anyhow, but at this point, Howard Hughes was a recluse. He was very, very influential. He was aerospace at the time. It was just aero, but apparently there was more space involved than we've been led to believe. So my mom, when I was a child, the first memory I have of this is my mom talking to me when I was probably about 5 or 6 years old. And it was sort of out of the blue. I think that maybe John Glenn had just done his flight or something. And I was very excited. I was always excited about space, Paul. It's always been
Oh, hang on. I think we got a motorbike outside. I'm not sure if you can hear it.
So I was telling you about my mom. I'm not even sure how she got the job. She worked as a deputy sheriff in Muscatine, Iowa when she was young. For some reason, people liked my mom. She was an influential person. Everybody loved my mom. If you met her, it was like, oh, she's really interesting. I like her, you know. And people would tend to tell her things. They would talk just off the cuff to my mom.
Yeah.
Everybody did that. I did that. You know.
Yeah.
I was her son. Yeah. And I miss her so much. I love her. I love my mom so much. Just a quality person. But Howard Hughes had picked her for one of his two personal secretaries. And at this point, he was a recluse, and he had an assignment he sent my mom out on. My mom first told me about this when I was just a little kid. I was like out of kindergarten. And she just started talking about it. And she kept talking about it for a few years. I think that she thought I was safe. I think she thought I would forget about it, but I didn't forget about it. You know, it was like, wow, my mom, you know. So what she said was that she went out to the desert. She didn't specify which desert. She didn't say that she flew there. Las Vegas is close. Edwards is close. It's right up here in Lancaster area, you know.
What's this with, hang on, what's this with Howard Hughes that she flew out to the desert?
She either drove out there, she didn't say whether she flew or drove. I don't know.
Because you talk about in the article about the German scientist, von Braun.
Yes. Well, that's up ahead.
Yeah. So she actually carried on with that guy as well. Is that what you're saying? Both of them.
I don't know. My mom claimed that she knew Werner von Braun, that she I mean, he had a pet name for her. He called her Betty Grace, which was her first and her middle name.
So you're not sure if the desert was through him or Howard Hughes?
No, it was through Howard Hughes. It was all through Hughes aircraft.
So would Howard Hughes have been to this desert underground base?
He sent my mom there because he was not going anywhere at that point. He was a recluse. He was a shut-in.
Yeah, he didn't OCD personality.
Yes, he talked to my mom through an intercom.
Yeah.
And she was the next room over from him. There were two rooms. There was another room for his other secretary. There was a second room for my mom.
Yeah.
You would open the door. There was a hallway that you would go down, and it would open up to the parking lot. She saw Howard Hughes one time.
Oh, right.
He was walking Chaplin-esque down the hallway with a briefcase, hat on his head. He opened the door. He looked around. He saw her looking at him, and he walked out. And that was the only time she ever saw him. And I believe it was like 5 or 6 years that she worked for Hughes.
Well, didn't he interview her, though, for the job?
Probably had somebody interview her.
So he would have seen her?
I don't think that he interviewed her.
He would have been in a room next door with a half mirror so he could see her, but not her.
Yeah, he probably listened to it, but I don't know that. She didn't talk about that.
Right.
You know. But she liked him. She thought he was eccentric. You know, there was a story where he asked her to go to See's Candy and get the recipe for their fudge because he loved their fudge.
So what year was this in?
It was in the late 1950s. I don't really have a year for it.
Oh, okay. So it would have been after the Roswell crash then.
Oh yeah, well after.
Well after that.
It was at least like 10, 11 years after the Roswell crash, probably.
I know he was a filmmaker mostly,
yes, he was.
And he invented a big plane, wasn't it, and flew a big plane across the sea. Was that him? Yeah, I was pretty sure it was him. But it didn't work very well, did it? It was too heavy or something?
It was an amazing film. I mean, he filmed actual biplanes and at war with each other.
Oh, yeah, I've seen the black and whites. Yeah.
I think there might have even been casualties in the film,
Yeah.
He was a very intense man. He had he had a passion for whatever it was that he was doing. He certainly had ADD to a very large extent, and also OCD.
Yeah.
But anyhow, I mean, what really hit me as a child, and still hits me now as an old man of 59 years old, is that my mom said that he sent her out to a deep underground base. It was in the middle of the desert. Now, she didn't tell me how she got there. She didn't tell me which desert it was. I've talked about this at length with my friend Jeff Krause, who's the state director of California for MUFON.
Yep.
I've talked with everybody about this, a lot of people. Yeah. I think I've talked with Bruce Maccabee. I've talked with a few people,
It's the sort of thing you wouldn't forget, though.
Yeah. I've gotten other little gleanings from strange people that you would never guess that you'd get them from, just random.
Oh, right.
My grandfather worked in Area 51.
Yeah.
They did have yellow umbrellas in the cafe.
Oh, right.
But my mom said that she went out to the desert, that they took her to a shack. It was just, she called it a shack.
Oh.
I don't know, I don't know what that means, but she said that we went in and there was an elevator. It was an Otis elevator.
Yeah.
She specified that. She said that the door opened, we stepped in, and it went down.
Yep.
And it went down, and it kept going down.
Right.
And she started getting scared because this thing kept, you could feel the inertia of it going down. And she didn't say it was a mile under the ground, but she alluded to that. And that was, it took at least a minute to get where she was going.
Yeah.
So she stood there, and the doors opened up. She was with a few security personnel. The doors opened up, and she said that there was a little city under there. That was what she called it. She said that there was a little city under the desert.
It does sound like a sci-fi, doesn't it?
I know.
Yeah.
And I heard this when I was, I mean, it must have been 1963, 64 the first time. I remember because, I was a little kid. I watched the Jetsons. I watched the Flintstones, the Great Gazoo.
So what age? What age was that? What age?
It was probably 5 or so.
Okay.
And she kept talking about it off and on.
Right.
And she would talk about, well, we would go down this elevator, we'd open up and they would take us in a golf cart. Mm-hmm. And there were movie theaters, there was a drugstore, there was a guy who would actually do my hair, is what my mom told me. She said,
we call them hairdressers over here.
Yeah. She had a hairdresser a mile under the desert.
Yeah.
And she said that it was a little city down there, that there was a cafe that we would go to. They had sun lamps, and that there were yellow umbrellas over the tables.
Right.
And that they really tried to make it seem like it was just very normal, but of course it wasn't.
No.
And the best that I could get from her, as far as what she was doing down there, because that's what I still want to know, know. I have ideas.
Yeah, I don't
but she
blame
said
you.
that they were working on esoteric projects.
Yeah.
Esoteric projects. And I heard about this until maybe age 8.
You might want to explain what that means to some of the people out there. I suppose that black projects will probably be...
They were working on black government projects. I mean, when I look at that, I think about, Corso, Philip Corso.
Yeah.
As messed up as he was, I think there was a kernel of truth in there,
Yeah.
And it very much aligned with some of the stuff that my mom said. I've met other people whose, I know one woman whose grandfather worked at Area 51. She said, there were yellow umbrellas over the table.
So that sort of confirms
They had a French cafe.
Mm.
They had a French cafe. You could order wine or champagne. You could kick back, and it was just like being on top of the earth,
Yeah.
But there they were under the desert, a mile under. My mom claimed that she knew Werner von Braun.
Yeah.
That he was a very nice man, she said. He was charming.
But how did she actually meet him? Was it underground or?
I don't know.
She didn't
I
say.
wish I knew. She never explained it.
So she might have been taken along to a presentation and met him there, you see. And he might have been talking about UFOs or aliens or something.
Probably. I mean, my mom knew about aliens.
Mm.
Now, when she wasn't talking about the underground base, because she never talked about aliens and the underground base.
Yeah.
There were two different things she would talk about. She would talk about the underground base. She would talk about Werner von Braun. Apparently, she met, John Glenn at one point. She said, he hurt his back in the bathtub. I couldn't believe it. It was horrible. They were going to ground him. And, she knew all this stuff. And then she would clam up. And the older I got, the less she talked.
Yeah.
And when I was in 4th grade, I was about 9 years old at that point, I did a little show and tell at school. They were asking, well, what do your parents do? And I said, well, my dad is a landscaper.
Yeah.
And he rolls sod, and he makes, he puts in sprinkler systems and stuff. And my mom, she worked for Howard Hughes.
Yeah. And
she worked at an underground military base that was in the middle of the desert. And, it's like the teacher kind of stopped me, and they called my mom. They called my parents in, but my mom went in. And my mom is who went in.
Yeah.
And I guess she did some fast talking. Everybody looked at me strange after that. The UFO books disappeared from the school library, by the way.
Yeah.
Because my mom talked about UFOs too. She said that it was a very real phenomenon.
Yeah.
My mom, I grew up knowing that we had made contact with aliens.
Mm.
My mom said that it happened a long time ago. She said that, we know all, we know all that. The public doesn't know it. We know all that. It's.
Did you know that they're abducting people?
She didn't ever say that.
No.
My aunt around 1968 brought the Look magazine that had the synopsis of the Betty and Barney Hill abduction, to our house. It was it was right after Christmas, actually, because we all had Christmas presents. I think I had like the Lost in Space set, you know.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
playing with all our stuff. And my mom and my aunt were having this heated argument. My aunt brought the magazine, and she was asking my mom, well, what do you think of this? And my mom said, well, that sounds like it could be valid.
Mm.
I mean, there are extraterrestrial, she didn't use that word. She used something, you know, prosaic, like space people, but she said there are people that are not from the Earth that we have met, and this could actually be a valid thing.
Mm.
My mom, I don't think my mom knew. At that point, she was not working for Hughes. She stopped working for him in 1958 when I was born.
Right.
But she seemed to have a handle on the information. It pissed my aunt off righteously.
Mm.
And my cousins and I were like ears glued to the door. You know, I just couldn't do it.
Well,
you know?
as you said, that if you're religious, also you tend to not to believe it, and
sure,
it conflicts with their religious views. And
my mom wasn't religious. My dad was.
Oh, right.
So she had to tailor things for Dad. You know?
Okay.
Yeah. But that's what I heard, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as the years went on, as I became older, especially as an older, it was actually past my teenage years. My teenage years were a little rough. You know, I experimented with drugs like everybody did in Los Angeles at the time. You know, it was sort of a thing. It was the music, and it was sort of what was happening.
Yeah.
But I at one point, it was about 1970. It was 1974
Right.
Easter. I made a commitment to Christ through a church that was
right.
local, and so the whole UFO thing wasn't really convenient anymore for me.
Right.
But my mom she still talked about it a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, as I got older, I sort of shed that skin.
Yeah.
And I started asking her questions again, and her questions became more tailored to me and more measured. But she did tell me, you know, it's like I started taking her to movies. I tried to get her to talk. You know, I tried to get her to talk. I wanted to know more. So, and she had security clearances. And I found out, you know, later on that she kept her security clearance until the day she died. She never lost her security clearance.
But
she
you don't have a badge?
Very high.
You don't have a badge or paperwork of any kind?
No, there was none of that.
So you didn't have to wear a name tag saying...
She was able to make one phone call and get my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law wanted to join the FBI. She come from a past where, you know, her father and I guess some people were in law enforcement, and she wanted to get into the FBI. And she asked me if my mom. She said, "Hey, you know what? You know, Nancy was saying that your mom has security clearances. Is there any way she could help me? I want to join the FBI." I said, "I don't know, but let me ask her. I'll ask her, you know." And I asked my mom, and she made a phone call, and she called up my ex-mother-in-law. My ex-mother-in-law. But she was my ex-mother-in-law at the time, actually. But I liked her. I still do like her.
Right.
You know. So, but anyway, my mom made a couple phone calls, and suddenly she had security clearances, or she was able to get security clearance. And that really impressed me at the time. I didn't know that my mom was that connected still, but she was.
Well, that proves that maybe she did have what she said she had, because she got someone else the clearance.
Well, we left out the whole, you know, the middle of the story.
Yeah, the middle of the story about her being a recruitment agent.
Yes. She had left Howard Hughes in 1958 after I was born.
Mm.
And she tried to be a housewife, and things didn't go well for my dad financially.
Yeah.
So my mom started working employment agency stuff.
Yeah.
And slowly she started accruing all the aerospace companies. And I watched it. I saw her do it. Yeah. And she got Lockheed Martin, she had Rockwell and Northrop, and she had everybody. You know, she had everybody. Raytheon, you know, she was staffing all their factories.
Right.
And she would interview the people, and she'd send them out. And they started asking her about scientists. And, well, my mom apparently, either she had kept her security clearance or she had it reinstated. I'm not sure which it was.
Oh, okay.
My feeling is she probably kept it. You know, she was really proud of it. She was a patriot. You know, she was the all-American wave the flag person.
She took all her secrets to the grave, mostly.
Yeah.
Mostly, anyway.
Mostly. I got a couple of them. My sister didn't get any of them, you know. I think my aunt might have a couple of them, but she isn't. I have to push a little bit more. But anyway, but my mom started working freelance, and she was sending scientists out. Well, they weren't necessarily documented scientists. She would find people that were interesting.
Yeah.
People that had an aptitude for mathematics.
Yeah.
Walking computers is what people were looking for at the time. Now, this is before the PC. It was before the digital age had taken off. So, and my mom got one friend of mine out. His name is Robert.
Mm-hmm.
His mother, ironically, was my math teacher. She was the worst teacher I ever had. I hated her. she made me sit in the rain once because I didn't do my homework.
Oh, yeah.
But he disappeared for some time, and he came back. And I knew that my mom got him out. It was for Northrop. He came back, and he was a little freaked out, but he was still proud. And he said, well, you want to know what I'm doing? I'll show you. And he went into the house. And he brought back a readout sheet, like the old computer readout sheets that were sort of, you know, they would fold together.
Oh, yes.
It was all green, you know, with a black type.
Yeah.
Old school type.
Yeah.
And he's like going through all these pages. It's like, what is he showing me? We're supposed to go see a concert. And he got down to this number, and he had used an orange grease pencil. He made a circle around this number.
Right.
And he said, this is what went wrong. This was what it ruined. You have no idea how much money went into this hole. And it was a problem, and their computer screwed up somehow. They screwed up.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I was doing, and I got paid really well. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he suddenly had like a nice car, you know. But weird things kept happening to him, and he disappeared again. But I didn't have any information about what that was about, you know.
Yeah, maybe he went to this underground base, huh?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, maybe they have underground, maybe they have underwater, maybe they have outer space. I don't know. I don't know, Paul. You know, what I heard about was the city under the desert that was there in 1958. I know it was there in 1958. And I heard about it for years. As I got older, my mom clammed up, but when she was dying of cancer, she started talking a little bit more. I asked her about Bob Lazar, actually. And she said that, well, I've never heard of him. I've never heard of him before. I told her, I said, well, this guy says that they have UFOs out in the Nevada desert, Mom. And they were, you know, engineered from something that came from another planet. And anyhow, the guy's name is Bob Lazar. He's talking. I'm just wondering, have you heard of this guy? And she didn't say, oh, Earl. You know, we don't have UFOs in the desert. No. And you know, my mom didn't suffer fools.
No.
If you said something stupid, she would correct you immediately.
Right.
She was smart. You know,
right.
She was a math whiz. She was a spelling whiz. She knew, you know, she could do the, you know, the secretarial, I can't say it, old man here. But, you know, I mean, she was very, very smart. But, you know, she didn't say, oh, Earl, there aren't UFOs in the desert. She said, oh, no, I never heard of Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar, I never heard of him. You know? She changed the subject, and that's kind of how it was. It was sort of, I walked away from it going, well,
right.
She did say that there were not flying saucers in the desert. So
do you think Bob is legit yourself, or 50-50?
I like to think he probably was he tells everybody that he had these degrees, but what my mom looked for, and what Northrop and Lockheed, because she worked for Lockheed during the Ben Rich period, and I heard about it. I mean, she said, I'm a headhunter for Lockheed right now, and they're doing some really cool stuff for all. You'd love this.
Yeah.
And she didn't tell me what it was, but
no.
You'd love it. But they looked for special talents, and they didn't have to have a parchment.
No.
They did not have to have a degree. In fact, they were looking for just geniuses that were just geniuses on their own.
Yes.
They could look at something sideways and look at something differently.
So, but yeah, Dad used to go away, and we didn't used to see him for 6 months. So he's a bit like your mother in the way.
She would disappear. She would go on, contracts.
Yeah.
Back in the 1990s and the 2000s.
Yeah.
And she'd be out of town for months, and she couldn't say where she was going. She'd be on the phone. I'd hear her, she was always cheerful and sweet and eloquent to people. She was a people person, and she was gone. I remember back in before the first Gulf War, she was gone for was it 3 months? It was a while.
Yeah.
She was gone, and she came back. And she said, I can't tell you where I was. But there was sand in her suitcases. And there was Saudi gold, headscarves,
Dad used to
stuff.
do that too. He used to come back with these gold bracelets for Mum, and they'd be worth like tens of thousands of dollars now. We're too scared.
Sure.
She's too scared to wear them because they're so expensive now. But back in those days, he'd spend like his week's wage on one of these bracelets, and now it's worth so much money.
Of course, yeah.
Amazing artwork in them though. They got patterns and grooves, and they've got made from several carats of gold. And
that's
22,
how they that's how they exchange there. And my mom said that she would go out. I mean, she talked about it eventually, and she said, "Well, I always had to have like a couple of handlers with me.
Yeah.
These big dudes.
Yeah.
And we'd go out to the bazaar and stuff.
But that was
so
in the
talk about it.
But that was in the 90s. No, it was in the 90s though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
When she went.
That was right before the first 91, I guess.
Yeah.
It was right before the first Gulf War. I mean, she got back, and a month later we were at war with, with Iraq. It was the first one.
Yeah. Well, that we were in Libya back in the 60s, early 70s, sort of thing.
Sure.
And Germany, and so it's a bit before your mum's time there.
Yeah. Well, it's all the same thing, though. It's how dare God give you our oil,
Yeah.
Or trying to get it back, I guess. But it wasn't really ours. It wasn't yours. It wasn't anybody's, but theirs. But I guess that was the Bitcoin of the time.
Yes.
Yeah. It's probably going to change soon. I have a funny feeling that it's probably not going to be a petroleum, based economy for much longer. It's just a gut feeling. It's dead dinosaurs, really. And I think things are going a different direction. And it'll be interesting. I hope I live a long time. I hope I get to see everything that plays out.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're going to go to Mars, and we're going to do all this stuff. I think we are truly on the fringe of the space age. And when it happens, it's going to be quite revolutionary. It'll change all of our lives.
Yeah, I used to read those books as a kid, and they used to say we'd be in space stations by 2020. I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I took my mom to see Star Wars. That's something I didn't tell you about. It was 1977. It was the day after it came out, right? We went to see it in Santa Monica. We were out there, and I love my mom, so I'd hang out with her every once in a while. I'd go out there, and we'd do like a day trip. It's like, what do you got to do? And I'll do it with you, Mom. And so we were out in Santa Monica, and Star Wars was playing. I was like saying, let's go see this. It's supposed to be really good. We saw the film, and I saw it, and I thought, they totally botched up the whole light speed, the parsecs. It was like it was a major
Yeah.
Distance and not, I mean, what, but, my mom was just like, she started talking, it loosed her tongue.
Yeah.
For some reason. She was like, "Oh, Earl, you have no idea how real that film is. It really is like that out there. It really is like that out there. There is alien life in space." Or she didn't say alien life, she said there's life off of Earth. And it's very, very real.
So you reckon that UK hacker that discovered the secret space program and people with ship names and people's names on board them is actually correct?
Off-world, what was it? Off-world...
I can't think of the name.
Operatives or something.
Yeah, something like that.
He might have actually gotten something there.
I think he did, because he was downloading the image when he got shut off. Because you got to remember, back in his time, back in this time, he didn't have fibre connections. It was all dial-up connections.
Yeah.
And he was connecting from a dial-up connection to another modem to another modem. And, of course, they all had different various speeds. And when you download a 1 megabit, 1 megabyte picture, you know it's going to take forever on dial-up. Remember the time?
Yeah, to wait for it.
No, you've probably forgotten about it already. But I remember the screeching, and you see the image slowly coming up one line at a time every minute, and it used to take forever just to download a photograph on dial-up. But with those,
saw a big cigar like hanging over the Earth, apparently. And there was apparently he was able to get into a list of off-world soldiers.
Yeah.
And no, I think that's probably very valid. He's not Corey Good.
No.
That I'll tell you. Corey Good is bullshit. And he made it up full cloth. Maybe he is starry-eyed, or maybe he's crazy, or maybe he wanted to make a buck. I don't know the man, but I don't believe him. But no, the story you're speaking of,
I think the guys did stumble across something. Yeah. And
Trump mentioned that we're going to start a space force, so maybe it seems like they're trying to align reality with what we've already heard right now.
Yeah. It's all starting to fit together slowly as the years creep on.
Very slowly, yes.
Yeah.
This is how they do disclosure, apparently.
Oh, right. Can't just... Well, even the Catholic Church have adjusted their belief system so people don't freak out for it.
Yes, they have. They have. C.S. Lewis was ahead of them. He wrote Paralandra and those wonderful books many years ago. 1963, 65 and 66, I think he wrote those. Hit that hideous strength, Paralandra and Out of the Silent Planet. He was a theologian, but he was ahead of his time. He was seeing something, and a lot of people they see it, they feel it, and it's coming to light right now. And it's exciting times. It's exciting times to be on planet Earth. I think the next 20 years is going to be 20 years from now. If you want to talk to me again here,
I'll talk to you every week if you want. We can talk about a different subject every week if you want to.
Cabbages and Keens, my friend.
We'll see how this one comes out.
Well, I think you got something there. Is there anything that I left out?
I'm just trying to think. There probably is. So, your mother died of cancer. There was something at the end of...
Yes, she did.
She
had cancer like 6 different times.
6 different times, yeah.
And it was weird, because it was not a metastasis like you normally see. That's why the doctors were baffled, because usually you'll get cancer and they'll metastasize to another organ. But no, she'd be clean, and then there was no sign of metastasis at all, and then suddenly it would pop up somewhere else, totally unrelated. And she kept, going back and getting parts of herself cut off, Poor mom.
Do you think... poor mom. Do you think she was...
I wanted her to sue the government.
Yeah, but do you think she was targeted? Maybe they found out that she had spoken to you, and maybe they were going to punish her.
No, I think she was just around dangerous shit. Is what happened.
Well, you reckon she might have seen she might have been around the nuclear blast zone where the radiation was. You reckon?
That would not, of course, that would not surprise me at all. My mom spoke about Alamogordo every now and then with no reference points around it. Oh, it's such a nice place. And she dropped the subjects like, where did that come from? And,
yeah.
You know, as time went on, I would find out, well, yeah, you know, it's where they were doing all the atomic bomb, you know, the Trinity stuff. And yeah, I think that my mom probably visited some of the, you know, probably saw some of that.
Yeah, well,
and,
she might have gone
they
into...
didn't protect them.
She might have gone into one of those labs to see someone, and they were mucking around with radiation. It may have been, like you said, they might have been trying to reverse engineer a UFO crash part, and it may have been emitting radiation they didn't know about.
Sure. Lots of people have been harmed by UFOs. I mean, we have a few accounts that are very, very, very well documented.
Yeah.
So
that woman
you know,
that got burnt, wasn't she, on the skin, and that melted the car.
Absolutely,
I can't think of the name of it now. The diamond-shaped UFO.
Of course,
yeah.
It might have been the flying pumpkin seed. That's what some people think.
Oh, right.
They call it if you go and Google it, it'll come up for you. Yeah.
There's a lot of interest in people.
Valid.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in people in ufology, and I'm meeting few through my channel now. Of course, I've met you through the groups and stuff.
Yeah.
Which
I think the ones you can trust are the ones that really they can't tell you everything. You know, it's like it's the proverbial story of the gurus trying to describe the elephant. You know, one guy has a tail, one guy has the trunk and the ear, and you know, it's and they compartmentalize, and they do that purposefully. That's how they keep things secret. They compartmentalize.
So what's your opinion? Why do you think aliens are coming here to Earth?
My personal opinion is that it is not a nefarious thing, because we're still here. I mean, if they wanted to get rid of us, they could have introduced a virus, and we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. It would be very easy to do. We could probably do it at this point. But we could do that. Yeah.
Scintillas in the stream, hoping for what's true. I'm trawling for honor in this shallow pool. Borealis starlit crown arches over the Puget Sound. His hair drapes the horizon to full air. Where is my lucky star tonight? The seventh sister of the Pleiades walks in beauty like the night, oh, at its best, dark and now lost to me. Only trust in the northern star. That's the only point that's fixed. I once believed in love. Even love cannot bridge this rift. Where is my lucky star tonight? The seventh sister of the Pleiades.